Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the Path.
Listening to Live from the Path. We're coming to you from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper.
Yeah, happy, what are we, 2019?
Yeah. Welcome to the show. Here's the deal. You thought we had, as a collective, had deceased. And I'm disappointed in you. I did not get any condolences on the complaint line. But
nobody cared.
Oh, man.
That's sad.
Are we that type of fellas?
Well, kind of. Here's the thing.
We're Jacob Marley.
Ben and I were just talking about this just before the show started, about how divisive it's obvious, like the internet tends to be. You know, like you try to highlight all these individual characteristics, and then you go out and search a community that meets all these individual characteristics, right? And so, like, it'd be interesting to try to find a group of people that says struggling, rarely listened to podcast, but you've been at it for 7 years, club. You know what I'm saying? That we could be friends with on Facebook or share tweets about.
See, I'm not sure it's good to have a support system like that of people with your own shared, like your exact experiences.
Well, that's the exact premise behind all kinds of blank anonymous groups.
Yeah, I don't think you should do that.
It kind of makes your world a little smaller, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, oftentimes, the worst thing you can... I get it. I'm going to say this, and then it's going to sound crass and if you think of some certain circumstances. But, like, oftentimes, if your deal is to find someone else with your exact situation to sympathize with, like, one, they can know you, but then it does run the risk of, like, micro-focusing on your situation as if it's the only game in town. And so, like... here's the last thing we need to do is we don't need to be empowered by another gaggle of dudes who've been, podcasting to 9 folk for 8 years.
Yeah, actually,
I'm not sure that does any good things for me.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. That's actually why I always liked what's the program where it covers all kinds of addictions and struggles and whatever. But
Celebrate Recovery.
Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah.
I always liked the attitude of Celebrate Recovery because the thing is like if I find another guy that say is addicted to smoking, and me and him start talking, we're the ones most likely to band together and smoke as a team. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I figured if it was time for me to get off the wagon, I could certainly convince this other addict that does the same thing I do, right? But let's say I run into a guy that, like, smoking's not his deal. It just happens to be, a prescription medicine, right? And he goes, yeah, smoking's not a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can live without smoking. You should be able to live without smoking.
What's your deal?
And so, like, he's conquered the thing that I'm struggling with. And so it's almost... it seems just on the flat surface of it, it seems like it might be easier to find a guy that's already beaten whatever you got, That way, he's not going to be ever the guy that wants to stop by the 7-Eleven and grab a pack of smokes. He don't care about that.
Yeah. So I think it's best if we could find, a guy who podcasts to like 1,000 and then somebody who podcasts to 3. Because that guy's still putting some effort into it. That's like why, frankly, I think there's value in knowing... if you're trying to go to church, staying connected with rural churches, like having like some kind of contact with a guy who to be honest, is going to have got like 45, 50 people in his congregation, and he's always going to. Like, there's just the population in his area is not going to, it's not, unless it grows, the amount of folks that you can draw into the church isn't just going to get bigger, because like that's someone who doesn't have such a big, you don't have the buffet to go after. You have to like maintenance the world you have. And you start doing right things with relationships, community, and it doesn't have to be everything that you do, but like it retains a sense of that, along with the relationship with someone who's been super successful at growing a church. And I think there's just value in kind of maintaining those types of healthy perspectives around people. So three a guy who podcasts to 3 people and maybe does it every week, and then maybe 1,000 every week, and we'll be the 9 people who does it, whenever we float in here.
Yeah, we'll be the dudes in the middle. Okay, we need to find a more immersive community, man.
Okay, got it. All right, well, thanks for hanging out with us. We do apologize. Like I said, the holidays just kind of lined up that way. And so when they hit Mondays, it just takes us out for a few weeks. So thanks for hanging out there with us. If you're upset about us being gone or that we're back, you can get a hold of us on the complaint line, 515-517-0085. That's 515-517-0085. 85, and we'd love to be able to hear from you.
So I heard a line I was watching the Muppet movie with the kids, And like it's when the Muppets, it's when Kermit and Fozzie had stopped at the old church, right? And they were trying to hide out from the frog guy, the guy that was trying to capture Kermit and get him to work for his frog business.
Yep.
And so Dr. Teeth and all the
Hey, now he wasn't trying to get him to work for the frog business.
yeah, he was. He was trying to get him to be the spokesman for Doc Froghopper's frog
Oh,
legs.
yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry. Yep.
So anyway, he goes into the church with the Dr. Teeth who's rocking out, and they pass out sleeping because they've been on the road a while.
Yep.
And Dr. Teeth, they repaint his whole car, and it's like a huge rainbow and bubbles and stuff. It's outrageous. They then said a line that made me think of Life from the Path is Fozzie goes, "Wow, I don't know how to thank you guys," and then Kermit goes, "I don't know why to thank you guys." And I laughed and I thought, crap, that's a radio show.
All right. So in this vein, there was an Gallup article that said 7 people Christians trust more than their pastors. Ooh.
Yeah,
Did you read it, Dan?
I did.
Ooh. Are we on it? That'd be rough.
Wait a minute, is it generalized people or a very specific dude?
It's generalized. As I
Okay,
recall.
good. I'm interested then.
Okay.
It's been a couple weeks of it.
All right, so here it goes. It says, though the Bible describes shepherds of the church as blameless, upright, and above reproach, Americans, even Christians, take a much more pessimistic view.
Yeah, the Christians. I thought that was
Yeah.
It's not just like Joe Blow down the road. The Christians
Think
don't
this-
necessarily trust the pastor.
That's right. That's right. It says, according to new Gallup survey, the country's perception of pastors fell to a record low in 2018. Fewer than half of American Christians, 42%, believe clergy have high or very high standards of honesty and ethics, according to breakouts provided to CT. Self-identified Christians were about as likely to rate clergy's ethical standards as just average, and about 1 in 10 consider them low or very low. Among Americans as a whole, trust in the clergy fell to 37%, making it the 8th most trusted profession in the country. Do you think this is the Catholics? I mean, sorry, Catholics, but
Because of the
I feel
scandals
like
you're saying.
if we were grading on a curve, do you think we could get 10% if you could normalize out the response to even the word? It's the word clergy that's getting me, right? When they
Yeah.
say clergy, I think Catholic.
so
I mean-
yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I think it's like the dude from Willow Creek, and it's like all these high visible preachers in Protestant churches too, and the Catholic churches that are being found out to either embezzling money or having affairs or hurting children, or they're just doing unchristian things,
Right.
but they're big name people, and even the Christian people are going like, yeah, I don't trust any of these
Yeah,
guys.
I mean, here's the thing though. It's not untrustworthy to do wrong things. It's untrustworthy to do wrong things and then hide it. And that's where they're getting it, right? Like people find it very trustworthy for someone to say they made a mistake, or say I did this thing. You know what I'm saying? And like that's never the stories that are obviously coming out news wise, right? It's always a guy that's been hiding it. For
Yeah, but he's not a
years.
mistake. Usually, it's like because they're hiding it and they keep doing it. It's
Yeah.
not like I did it that one time. It's I do it every week,
Right.
and I'm hurting people.
The thing occurred. I refused to acknowledge it, and I refused to resign until 6 months go by, and then I actually have to because I've just put myself in a ridiculous position.
Yeah,
That's untrustworthy.
and they destroyed the church in the meantime, and everybody left, and like, well, I can stay here, but no one's paying me, so I guess I'll go.
Do you feel
I mean-
like some of that is drawn from pastors who feel like there's an unrealistic expectation for them to not show that they've made any mistakes, right? Like because they think like if people were to find out I've done this thing or whatever, then they'll lose faith in this church, and then we'll lose people, and then it'll be a big disaster.
I think some. I mean, some of it's a protection of the brand, so to speak, and of the face, the head guy, and yeah. So they gotta just run from the fact that anything happened, and they'll deny it and cover it up, and you hear that enough, and pretty soon you just think that everybody's doing it, but it's not true. It's just a few big name people. But what's the joke about, hey, going postal? Well, every postal worker doesn't take guns into the post office and shoot people.
Right.
But there was a time when there was a handful. It happened, and it seemed like it'd be in the news once in a while. So that's like became a thing,
Right.
a phrase. And I think that's where we are with pastors. It's like every once in a while you hear in the news like these terrible, awful things going on. And after a while, people are like, yeah, that's just those guys.
Well, it's true, and you rarely see a news story that says Steve down the road Still doing a good job as a pastor, not causing no trouble.
Right.
Byline.
Yeah, right. The story's about a guy who loves the whiff of his own pits, and then he gets real upset when people are trying to take it away from him.
Yes.
And like I think I would be surprised to find out that there's some of these guys who like, you know, once they get into a position where they've made the mistake, like there's a concept of not just protecting them personally or the brand of the church or whatever, but like they feel like they're protecting the people of God, or especially when you're compounding the shame of pastors failing, and they're saying, boy, we just don't want to be another one. It adds to the narrative. But I mean, it is the narrative. And so let's like that's the gospel lives in that type of thing, and to deny that is a blindness to the very thing that you're called to do.
Do you find that, like, that's the weird part about it for me is like when you read a lot of especially Old Testament stuff and look how Israel reacted throughout the years, and maybe the Bible just depicts it this way, but you don't see a lot of this half in half out jazz, right? That we see a lot nowadays, where people are like, yeah, I was following Jesus and then I kind of did this thing, and whatever. And like there's some episodes out of King David's life that are pretty congruent, but like on the whole, when a new leader would show up to Israel and he'd be like, you know what? Put up the Asherah poles. He's just like, we're just going to do this thing. We're out. We're not doing this no more, and didn't continue like a weird charade of worshiping Yahweh, And so like, I don't know. It seems like that is a newer thing of like putting on, maybe it's just a cultural thing of putting on airs of some kind and acting like things happened or acting like things didn't happen when they actually did. And all that jazz, and there just seems like there's the base of integrity to say, look, yeah, I know it's wrong. Here's what we're doing, and at least having the stones to stick with it. It's just a cowardly deal all around.
I don't know. I was saying that you were talking, and it made me think of what was it? It's like Leviticus 18 or something, where they've just got done talking about the Day of Atonement, and then they're transitioning to like, here's the types of things that the people of God don't do. And like one of the warnings is, hey, look, you have to stop sacrificing to goat demons out in the forest. And so like, you can't, if you're going to kill anything, you got to bring it in so that we don't think that you might be out there sacrificing to goat demons. Give it to the priest. They'll take the fat and something else, and they'll hand you the rest back. But like, it was like the outlaw of that. And then that's what occurred to me at the time, is I thought like these people had been interacting with Yahweh like at the base of the mountain, and they've seen the 10 Commandments come, and they've seen him provide water and take vengeance upon the people who were worshiping the calf. And they're like, you know what? Maybe we could also still sacrifice to this goat demon up here. And you're like, what in the heck, man?
Yeah, maybe so.
And
Maybe
like,
it's not as different as I was hoping.
I think it carries. I think people are always
It's
like
the same.
that. And they have it in their mind that it's not like God has to call these types of things out. Like you would think that it would land with someone. Hey, man, there's the God in your presence. To the extent that, like, if you're doing sacrifices to make sure that you don't unintentionally interact with a holy thing and cause your death by trying to bring your unholiness into God's presence, okay? And in the same breath, God has to say, oh, by the way, no sacrificing to go demons. I'm gonna have to call the line.
Yeah.
No,
just
doing
to make
that.
this clear, I won't abide that as well. That's gotta come to a stop.
And like you have to assume it's more than one guy, because I mean it's kind of addressed to everybody.
Yeah,
it wasn't just like, hey Ted, stop doing that in the forest.
Yahweh doesn't like to do. He doesn't like to single people out so he doesn't hurt their feelings. He goes, it's normally Bill. Bill's the one doing it, but just for another recompense for everybody, no goat demon stuff. That's got to come to an end.
They said,
who are the more trustworthy people?
Okay, hold on. So over the last 40 years, they've measured the country's view of the trustworthiness of faith leaders along with the range of other professions. What year do you think that the trust in clergy peaked over the last 40 years?
2012.
2012, Dan?
I'm going to say 86.
Ooh. Now, either Dan is an awesome guesser, or he's retained something unintentionally from the article. It is very close. It's 1985.
Oh.
Why did you say?
I have no idea.
Oh.
No idea.
It said in 85, 2/3 of Americans said the clergy had a high or very high honesty and ethical standard. Now, that was the time. That was the start of the buildup of the moral majority. So, like, there was a lot of play on television and media of kind of these people trying to enforce a morality. It took 1987, 88, and the early 90s for all those guys to really screw the pooch and disappoint everybody, and that probably knocked the scores down. But the media tour of the thing perhaps gave them the inclination that these people were trustworthy.
It's kind of funny. I was reminded of this last night. We were in some group thing, and you were supposed to tell something that people probably don't know about you, and I was kind of going through my mind. Well, what don't people know about me? I was reminded it was the 80s. I honestly, legitimately had like a 20-year plan to run for president.
Right on.
And because I was a pastor, and it was in the 80s, and everybody loved pastors, and I thought, this is a strength. I mean, honestly, I really, really thought that. And that's probably why, because I was part of that, culture at the time when America loved their pastors. I mean, everybody didn't, obviously. Like, the pastor didn't win,
Right.
But Pat Robertson ran for office. Reagan ran on Christian stuff, the moral majority thing. And I thought, yeah, just because I went to Iowa Christian College, which is a pristine, university, and I'm a pastor. I'm gonna be president someday.
Dan, how many years into that plan did you bail on it?
Well, by the early 90s, I was looking around going, number one, I'm not qualified. That's part of the thing. But I figured I don't need to be. I just you get people around you that are smarter than you, and that's all you need. And but then I just and also Cheryl hates anything with controversy at all, and the thought that someone might not like her would kill her. So I learned pretty soon, just for my wife's sake, I can't do that.
It's just not the right plan.
Right? Yep.
Well, at least you didn't get to year like 16 and go, you know what, time to pack it up.
My dreams are all dead. It's like, no, I decided, it's not really a dream. That's just dumb.
So you're saying in 1985, at best, it was 66%? That's at the best?
Yeah. Now, there was a bump in 2001 for
the millennium.
No.
For the new Coke.
Nope. Come on.
2000.
Nirvana.
No,
I don't know. I can't think of what would. Was there a big catastrophe somewhere?
There was a revival of Jesus Christ Superstar on Broadway. You said 2001, right?
Yeah. September 11th.
Started a new church?
Oh, yeah, it was September
11th. The attacks.
Crap, I guessed.
That was 2001.
I guessed 2012 because I thought 9/11 happened in 2011.
No, it was in 2001.
Super embarrassing.
Yeah. So I assume that it's associated with that. People actually started, they looked to started looking to religious leaders for guidance.
Yeah, people ran to churches, and pastors were there helping people.
Yep.
Our church and our small group swelled at that time, and people were in tears. We sat in the living room and watched the news, and people, we had a prayer meeting that night at a school. Yeah.
So, and it said there in the article, in the Gallup article, it says men and women turn toward clergy in some of the most intimate moments of their lives. They are conduits of people's deeply held religious convictions that shape the way we understand this world of the next. The kinds of scandals and authoritarian leadership that we saw this year among the clergy undermines the trust we place in them. Ooh, let me check this out. According to the December poll, Catholics are less likely than Protestants to continue to trust church leaders. Fewer than a third of Catholics, 31%, give positive marks to clergy, compared to around half of the Protestants, or 48%. Interesting. Okay. And they did note some of the things that Dan had talked about. In the wake of the Me Too, Protestants have also seen their share of misconduct over the past year with removal of veteran Southern Baptist leader Paige Patterson, allegations against Bill Hybels, and widespread accusations of abuse among independent Baptist pastors. Yeah. Okay. So, despite declining trust in faith leaders, a separate Gallup poll recently named Pope Francis as the fourth most admired man among Americans. The Dalai Lama is number 8. This marks the first year in more than 6 decades that Billy Graham, who died in February, has not made the top 10, which is limited to living people.
Yeah.
He was on the list every year since 1955.
Right on. Thataway, Billy. I mean, if he would have made the list again this year, I would have thought, man, what a poor showing for everyone else with a heartbeat.
I trust dead people more than you.
Holy cow.
It says, even with declining confidence in clergy, pastors are by no means America's least trusted professionals. Mike, least trusted professional?
Lawyer or politician.
Dan?
Accountant. That was bad. That was a bad guess.
It's counted to be the accountant. Members of Congress.
Yeah. Okay.
Who are given a low or very low rating by 58% of Americans. The majority, 55% of Christians, also give negative ratings to Congress people.
As they should.
In general, Christians are in agreement with the rest of Americans about who are the most and least trustworthy and ethical professionals in the country. In addition to members of Congress, telemarketers, car salespeople are largely distrusted. Advertisers, stockbrokers, lawyers, and business executives are also more often perceived as having low or very low honesty and ethical standards. At the top of the list, most trusted professionals. Mike.
Probably. I mean, doctors probably.
Mike said survey says doctors.
People who work at the store. At
number
the grocery
two.
Store.
Number 2. Grocery store clerks. No.
Whatever. Those dudes are pretty uptown.
Yeah. So number 1, nurses.
Yeah.
Nurse.
84%. 84% think they have a high ethics. 84. Medical doctors drop quite a bit to 67.
Whoa.
Pharmacists 66. High school teachers 60.
Wow.
Police officers 54. Accountants 42.
Look at that, Dan.
See, that was
Accountants
close.
are highly regarded.
Funeral directors 39.
What?
Clergy 37. We got beat by the funeral director.
I mean, what are they? Oh, park is the price gouging, I suppose. I thought.
No, that's positive.
Yeah, but that means there's 60 against them, right?
Yeah, but so yes. Well, so a very high. So rate the honesty and ethical standards. Funeral directors are at 30%, very high. 42% average. 10% low or very low. Police officers are at 13% low or very low. And high school teachers are at low, 10% low or very low. So at least tied with that. Clergy have a 15% low or very low.
I mean, what do you have? Some of these I understand. There's like controversial issues and national political stuff going on. But high school teachers? I mean, they just kind of are there. I mean, who talks about the high school teachers in a either positive or negative light?
Right.
They just, I mean,
That they're unethical?
Yeah. What are they doing that's dynamic enough to cause untrustworthiness?
unless some of the sexual indiscretions that are happening, maybe.
Yeah, but that means the positive is only available because of the negative, right? Like generally, is that our only criteria to saying whether you're trustworthy as a high school teacher? Do you make inappropriate sexual advances? No. Well, then you are absolutely trustworthy in all areas.
I mean, I don't think the rate of that is at 10%.
Well, I mean, okay, would you say that about the clergy? Would you say that like the most of the reason people have a problem with the clergy is because it almost all of it has to do with sexual
That's
scandals?
a good point. Well, so here's one of the differences in the clergy, and this has to do with our era, is that so a nurse, for example, does not have a wide influence outside of the direct people they come in contact with. Clergy, however, in our day and age, are not just shepherding those in their own congregation. They're propagating sermons and things and articles and websites and tweets and things across the sphere, so which their failure expands far beyond their personal reach within their congregation.
Now, to be fair, they bring a good portion of that on themselves.
No, yeah. I'm not resolving that, but what I'm saying though is that like it is less likely a mistake or a dishonest nurse, for as an example of, well, let's go with the doctor because everyone trusts the nurse. A dishonest doctor or one that lacks ethics doesn't have the same impact or people to know about it and think about it and talk about it. And, like, it may come up as a crime, but like, as a matter of fact, their unethical things tend to be crimes as opposed to just like, hey, I didn't run my organization well or I was overbearing or something, of which case people separate criminals from professions. Like, it's easier to say this person is not like all doctors, he's a criminal. But like, if you look like a Mark Driscoll who was an authoritarian in his church, right? Or like sexual misconduct that is not a crime but is inappropriate for who you are. Mm-hmm. Like, you seem like everybody, and like you don't separate them out and say, oh, he's not like the rest of the pastors, he's a criminal. You're like, no, he's just a creepy pastor.
Yeah.
And so it's not a matter of fair or anything, but like it's just the consequences are bigger and more wide reaching for some of those big name pastors nowadays and the types of things that they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. So to boil all that down, people don't say, "Hey, he's a pharmacist who, I don't know, shades people a pill or two every time he fills a bottle," right? Like, they wouldn't say, "Hey, he's a criminal." They'd say he's a bad pharmacist. He's still a pharmacist, right? Which makes him a bad pharmacist. And same thing's true with the clergy. They're not breaking any laws, but they're doing immoral things. And so they're not saying, hey, that guy's because if he was a criminal, you'd put him in the same criminal bucket and look at him as a criminal.
Yeah.
But you're saying, look, he still gets to be a clergy as far as we are concerned. He's just unethical at it. He's a bad clergy. And so then the stigma stays with the job itself and not with the person.
So
And with like say a Hybels, it affects more people because like I've read his book.
right.
You know, I haven't met the nurse or the doctor in St. Louis that did that thing. you
Right.
know. I
That's-
mean,
that sold a guy's foot to Planned Parenthood. or something.
yeah. So it's like that's awful, but yeah. So
Yeah. It just has which I think that's the right. Here's the deal: is that's the right thing for the ministry, right? Like that level of influence on people is super positive. But like you have to guard yourself. You
Yeah.
can't be jacking it up.
right.
All right, let's see who the clergy beat out. Journalists at 33%.
Yes.
Contractors 29%.
Oh.
Bankers 27%. Real estate agents 25%. I don't trust a real estate agent.
That's not true. I trust Bob.
I trust Bob because I've met Bob.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. It's not fair. It's not fair that I don't trust him. But in general, the amount of self-advertising that it takes to be a real estate agent, I find it untrustworthy.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, get some stuff with my face on it. Get a
Yeah.
bench. People can sit on their butt next to my face. And I think, no, this is weird. And so the whole thing creeps me out.
And what's weird about that is they're going to sell the house anyway to somebody.
Yeah, someone go buy it.
Whether I buy it or the next guy, someone's going to buy that house, and they're going to get the commission. So I've never understood the crooked realtor thing, but it happens.
Yeah.
Or the lying. Oh yeah, no, that's in great shape. It's like no, it's ready to fall apart.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to come and look at it.
I mean, who anymore? Who doesn't know that they're being sung to? You know, like maybe you could get away with this when there was a coming of age within the Western culture where like you assumed everybody was pretty honest, and then the salesmen were making great strides because they were dishonest, but it sounded honest. But I mean, anymore, everybody sounds dishonest. Like who goes into the crappiest house in the neighborhood and listens to the realtor go, "This is the shining star of the block." And he's like, "Hun, it looks pretty rough, but he says it's the shining star of the block." Like nobody trusts that anymore.
It's a handyman special. You're a special handyman.
Yeah.
This is right for you. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Finish out the list of untrustworthy people here. Labor union leaders, 21.
Oh yeah.
Bummer.
Lawyers.
Lawyers?
No, lawyers.
Oh.
Not people. It's not a career to loiter.
People that just stand around doing nothing. Yeah, that's unethical.
That was labor union leaders. Oh, shoot. Lawyers, business executives, stockbrokers, advertising practitioners. That's kind of a weird way to put it.
Mhm.
Like marketers.
Yeah, like are people that advertise to you?
Huh.
Telemarketers, car salespeople, and members of Congress. Now, those were going down by the percent of which they were rated. Now, okay. Now, here's what doesn't make sense. Tell us how you would rate the honesty and ethical standards of people in these different fields. Very high ethical standards. Telemarketers,
What?
How many percentage?
9. Even the 9 is outlandish.
Yeah. That's what makes these polls hard to grasp.
Who gets off the phone with the telemarketer and goes, I didn't buy anything, but that boy certainly has a high ethical standard.
I believed everything they said.
They would have done anything to keep me in my current internet package. That's weird. Car salespeople 8%, stockbrokers 14%. So if you look on the opposite though, the percent rated very low. The highest low goes to, in reverse order, members of Congress, telemarketers, advertising practitioners, journalists, where like their middle range of people who had said they were average honesty is significantly low. It's almost, in fact, it is the lowest. So either you believe journalists are a crack squad at 33%, or you think they're conniving, deceiving pirates at 34%. The middle, they have the lowest middle ground percentages of anybody.
Interesting.
All right. Well, hey, wait, what's this? How old is this one? 8 people Americans trust more than their local pastor.
That's Americans, not Christians.
Oh. Hold
Is
on.
it about the same?
Let's see here. 44. Well, that's 2006. How old is this? This is kind of weird. According to religious breakdowns of the data, self-identified Christians are nearly twice as likely as non-Christians to still have faith in their faith leaders. Well, of course. While nearly half of Christians said pastors had high ethical standards, only a quarter of non-Christians agreed. So that's interesting. 25% of non-Christians believe that pastors have high ethical standards. I'm not sure that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Christians also indicated the stronger support of military officers, with nearly 3/4 finding them trustworthy, significantly more than non-Christians at 63%. Christians were also more likely to trust police officers, 59 to 46, auto mechanics, 35 to 27, and business executives, 18% to 13%. Non-Christians, on the other hand, preferred grade school teachers, 71 to 65% of Christian judges, 49 to 42, and newspaper reporters, 32 to 23. So it sounds like non-Christians are more likely to trust the media. Now, I suppose it. If you are not a Christian, you have to have a source of truth of which you pull in information, of which journalism in some form or other has to fit that, whereas otherwise a Christian could subsist without journalism and still adequately supplies true things. 3 of the professions rated highest for honesty and ethical standards are in the healthcare fields: nurses, medical doctors, and pharmacists, a trend that has been the case in recent years. While the clergy are at the bottom of the list, this year's rating represented a new low for a profession with image problems in recent years.
Well, I don't trust doctors. I gotta be honest. I mean, just in general, I'm always very suspicious of them.
Why?
Because I don't know. Like, when's the last time I went into a doctor? I think I tried to tell him the deal, and he's like, "No, that's not the deal." I'm like, I'm sure it is. I'm coming up with the deal. I'm telling you how it's what's going on or whatever. He's like, oh, something, and made up all these things. He's like, we got to do 5 more tests or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. And then I left, and I just kind of medicated at home, and it went away. And I'm like, okay, well, I gave him a shot. I tried to do the right thing.
He could be right.
Yeah, no, he wasn't.
You could have a festering cyst on your large intestine, and you don't know because you walked out and said, I don't trust you because you don't agree with me.
Now, it's because they got it. I mean, the way that here's the thing. Trying to figure out what's wrong with somebody, troubleshooting is troubleshooting. It doesn't matter what practice you're in, right? Like, whether you're a mechanic or a construction worker or a doctor or whatever, trying to figure out what is actually wrong here, the same basic principles apply, right? And so, like, that's what I do for a living. And I can tell when I'm being shined on or you've jumped to a conclusion without taking in any information. And that's generally what they're doing. Which is obviously not true of all doctors, and maybe I just have a mistrusting personality. But at the end of the day, I don't trust them at all. I think they just have some very big, quick solutions. Like every once in a while, like they should say. I think the last time I went in for something, I was sick or something. I don't know. I'd been sick longer than I should have been, and instead of telling me the truth, which is, hey man, you need to quit smoking, and you got to stop taking in so much sugar. Those are 2 things that are true. My body will fight off this stuff on its own if I wasn't acting like such an idiot, But he's like, here, just load up on this medicine or whatever. I'm like, hey, you have the perfect platform to tell me the truth. Like, hey, you taking in too much sugar and you got to quit smoking. And he didn't. He's like, just take these antibiotics or whatever and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's a fail. You're the guy that knows things. Coming from you, these staunch bits of advice would have made some difference, and you didn't do it. You just covered up my symptoms and sent me packing.
Wait a minute. Yeah, but isn't the proposition you're making is that you went in there and said, if this doctor who I should trust tells me to quit smoking, I'll quit smoking.
No.
But if he does not do it, I refuse.
If he tells me to quit smoking and stop taking in so much sugar, then I will respect his opinion on how to fix the flu that I got.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You didn't intend to reduce your sugar, quit smoking,
no.
But you would at least listen to him about his flu advice.
Yes, I would find him trustworthy if he would start with those 2 things and say, your overall health is causing these acute health problems. You should have been able to fight this flu off in a day or 2, and you drug it around for 7 days because you unhealthy. And so if he would have said those things right off the bat, I'd have said, okay, at least you're trustworthy. I'll take your antibiotics and we'll move on.
I see. Okay. In that last article, so they did add, there were a few other folks in there that were untrustworthy. The right below the members of Congress were lobbyists.
Yeah, I mean, they're paid to shine people on. That's the whole deal.
Here's the thing: is I think that they get a bad rep. I'm not sure they're untrustworthy. I just don't agree with their lobbying for. Like, their job is to say this is. In fact, they're probably the most honest people out there because they're going, look, we will do anything to get this thing done. You know exactly what they're trying to accomplish. You know who they're trying to accomplish it for. They have a pretty clear aim. They're pretty honest about what they want. Whereas I would say the members of Congress aren't always the case. So, like, I'd actually bump the lobbyist above the congressman because, like, I think they're a little bit clearer on their intentions.
It's so hard to declare a job and all the people that are currently represented in that job as being ethical or unethical, right? Because, like, there's ethical doctors and there's unethical doctors. And, like, on the whole, I don't know. I don't look at the whole swath and go, as a group, you guys are mostly blah or whatever, right? Like, it's very much on an individual basis.
There are some careers, though. I mean, like, it's hard to trust a car salesman.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
I just don't.
That's true.
Because they're going through so many cars so fast, they don't know that car. They're just getting rid of it. They want their commission. And it's like the more they lay on the glitter,
The schmooze, the
yeah,
charm.
the schmooze. I'm like, you don't have a clue. You don't have a clue. I've been in this car more than you have. I mean, there's 7,000 cars on this lot. You just want me to buy one. And so I don't. I have a hard time trusting them.
I had the finance guy do that to me one time. I said, "Here's what I can pay a month. You get it at this payment, then we got a deal, And he goes back and he acts like he's crunching a bunch of numbers or whatever. And he comes back like 20 minutes later and says, "All right, the number you gave me, I got it, plus about $30. But then it's a done deal." I go, "No, that's not the number that I said, though." And he goes, "Yeah, but I mean, it's not a big deal. You can just take it out of any part of your budget you want. It's just a small, minuscule amount." I'm like, "You don't tell me how to run my budget. I told you what the number was, and you come back with this other number." I said, "We're done." And I got up and left, and then he chases me down. And he's like, "Hey, we had a deal there." I'm like, "We didn't have a deal at all. I told you this was the thing, and you came back with something different. That's a no deal." He goes, "I really think you should have this car." I said, "Not at that price. Give me down to the price that I asked for, and we'll be fine." He goes, "Well, we can't do that." I said, "Well, I ain't going to buy the car then." And so I left. And then he called me half hour later at home. He's like, "I guess we can do that price."
Oh, man.
I said, "You seriously made me go through all this when you could have done, you knew that. You knew that when I was there, that you could have done that price. I'm not driving all the way back in for this." He goes, "Well, what if I take another $20 off a month for the price?" I go, "I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Oh, there you go.
And then I bought the car.
All right. I think that's it. That covers the untrustworthiness.
You want to do some advice, Ben?
Yeah. We're doing just fine. Let's do a couple advice, and we'll get you out here short and sweet. I like to treat the show like it's a job for you guys that are listening. We're gonna get you all tucked up and out the office today, Mr. Harrelson.
Dear, live from the path. My wife and I raised 2 children, a son who is a successful doctor, and a daughter who is a multi-post grad botanist. We are 72 now, in moderately failing health, and very successful ourselves. Our children were raised properly. We gave them all they would ever need to succeed and be happy. However, neither one is particularly interested in a loving relationship with us. Holidays together are strained. Frankly, I'm quite sick of both of them. They are inconsiderate, insensitive, and standoffish. We make no demands on either of them and never impose ourselves in any way. They never invite us to anything. We want to move away and disappear. What do you think?
I mean, that seems a little bit outrageous.
I don't think we have all the information.
Yeah. No one goes, "Hey, my kids really aren't getting along with me. By the way, I want to move away and disappear."
Yeah.
Like I was following up until that point, and then I thought, I don't. This reaction seems super weird.
Yeah. Well, and it's very one-sided. We're wonderful and awesome.
Yeah, we're fantastic. I don't understand.
And frankly, I'm sick of these kids. They were raised perfectly, and then they turned out like this. I mean, to be fair, to a certain extent, if you raise successful, well-rounded children, they're gonna produce things in their adult life that keep them busy and occupied,
Right,
and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're gonna have jobs and kids and communities and people that depend on them. And their likelihood of wanting to come around and have a long relationship with you, especially if they don't live in like the same town or whatever, like, it just gets hard to do after a while, And you'll lament it a little bit, but it's kind of part of your kids growing up. I don't know. I mean, judging from your completely one-sided submission, I'm going to give the kids a little bit of a benefit of the doubt and say maybe you did raise them right, which means they got people that are dependent on them. And, they could try to carve out some time to spend some more time with you. But on the whole, you raised them to be productive members of society, and they are, which means they don't have a whole lot of time to just stop by and build this giant relationship, right? You built them to build relationships with others. You parented well, and now you got to be proud of what you did and just enjoy their success through them. Is that unfair?
Well, I would say, though, even if they parented that well, they'd have the relationship.
You think? I mean, so Dan, I mean, you're kind of in this stage of life where your kids are growing up and moving on to things, and you're watching them succeed and make good choices and whatever.
Yeah.
And like when they start to spend less time with you, do you look at it as a fail of your relationship, or just a moving on of this is what an adult starts to do?
Yeah. But you know what? They find time. They find time to be with us because they want to be. But that gets less. I mean, but it's more, it's just different than it was when they were younger. I mean, it's more peer, we're having a good time and talking or planning and conspiring things as opposed to parenting. I think these guys still want to be parents.
Yeah.
And maybe it's like what? One's like a doctor or something. And I mean, it's like, yeah, you're done parenting.
Yeah.
Yeah, ship it sailed.
I mean, a multi-grad botanist. I don't even know what that is, but
I
that
don't know.
sounds pretty
I'm
uptown.
impressed.
Yeah. I mean, just a single grad botanist is probably pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so advice says, hey, look, you might be overreacting to this thing, and we feel like we don't have enough information, for this to be the case. It can't just be that they're busy, because like
Yeah.
if they're showing up for holidays or whatever, like they have no reason to be angry at you. If they're still showing up, they seem to be actually fulfilling the duties of like hanging out. Unless you're pressing on them all the time and saying, hey, look, you don't come up often enough. Thanks for taking time out to come to the holidays, but I expect you call twice a week and show up every other week, and I'm upset about it.
I'm actually not against what they're proposing. I think you should just move if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, is it necessary to move?
I mean, well, if they want to, well, hold on. They're just saying what they want to do. Say, we want to move away and disappear. Go ahead. I mean, what do you care?
Yeah.
If your relationship with your kids isn't really that important that you're up to hauling away, I mean, you leave your parents and you cleave to your husband, so you and your husband move if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Just do it.
What's that place down in Florida with the you can golf and
The Boca Raton.
the retirement place. The
Boca Raton.
No, it's the something.
Boca
there's one on TV all the
Raton.
time.
I didn't see that coming. That part there.
Yeah.
That narrows it down.
It's the something. The something at
The
something.
Boca Raton.
No, stop doing that.
The Love Boat?
Oh,
Don't go to
I have
Love Boat.
friends who actually live
Love
there.
Boat-
The
friends who
Everglades.
live at the Love Boat?
No, at the place, whatever that place is
You should
called.
probably text them.
The
Get an
s-
answer
it- it's
for us
I
next
keep
week.
it's the Sands is the casino. That's not the place, but like it's the something.
Isn't the Sands in Vegas?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's but that's what keeps coming to my mind. Like something
When he says the, you think Sands?
I think the Sands.
Boca
The bunker.
Raton.
Anyway, that's
My
my
pick
advice.
is The Boca Raton.
My advice is yes. If you want to move away and disappear, go ahead.
Yeah, if
I mean, you a grown adult. Just do what you want.
yeah. The core question is, should I move away? Sure, if you want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure your kids will come visit there, and they can be angry with you wherever you end up.
Right. You're
Right.
multiple bad botanist person.
You just as well have an
At the
awkward
Boca
family gathering at your new place that makes you happy.
Right.
The
exactly.
villages.
Yeah.
The Villages?
I had to Google it. The villages. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'm
you
not
should do
familiar
their,
with
you
the
should do their
theme song.
jingle.
Hey,
It's on the television.
are there any legit villages in Iowa? Because I heard somebody on the like a local radio station said that a guy got lost. He was missing tonight, or last night. He was on a snowmobile, and at 2 a.m. they said he's missing, and at 3 a.m. they found his snowmobile, but they did not find him, and they said it was located near the village of something, which is in Iowa, and is that a proper distinction within the state? Can you have an Iowa village?
No.
Sounds maybe. I don't know. What's the municipal way to explain a village versus like a township or a city or something
I
like
think
that?
it's not incorporated. You can't collect taxes in a village.
Oh, is that what that is?
Doesn't have a
I
post
have no
office?
idea.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, there's got to be then.
I got to say, Ben, this seems really unimportant.
That's a new one for me.
I'm gonna find it out later.
We got to
Here's
know.
a secular says.
If you have the answer, hit
The
us up on
question
complaint
was,
line.
let's see, we want to move away and disappear. What do you think? Secular says, people can disappear without physically moving away, as your children have already
As
demonstrated.
you already done, yeah.
Just lock your doors and don't answer.
Have you tried asking them why are they so distant? Unless you do, nothing will change. Because holidays are strange. Celebrate with those who appreciate you and whose company you enjoy. Yeah, I mean,
Thanks for that one, secular.
It's generally larger than a hamlet, but smaller than a town.
Larger than a what?
Larger than a hamlet, but
Hamlet?
smaller than a town.
What's a hamlet?
It's like a little piece.
Smaller than a village.
It's a piece of ham, just a small one, like a baby
So
one.
It's a ham
Farm?
cutlet. It's a Hamlet. Mike, you seem like you think this is very important.
Hamlet is smaller than
yeah,
500.
I don't think I've
You're
ever
not
heard
interested
of
in
a hamlet.
all in any of this.
not in the least.
Mike, what do you want to talk about?
Some geographers, trustworthy or otherwise, define a village as having between 500 and 2,500 inhabitants.
This is stuff
And
we were
there's
talking
plenty of
about,
them
about
in
the internet,
Florida.
Ben,
Those
before
are the
we even
village
started.
people.
It shouldn't even offer this type of information. Here's the thing. We could have had a great time as four dudes arguing over what the definition of a village is, and you ruined it by going to the internet and trying to produce
I've
a
qualified for
definition.
membership in the National Geographic Society. Only us explorers can have it, and that they define
Us explorers
As between
is how Ben decided to describe himself
Trustworthy,
and associate with other explorers.
2,500
He is,
inhabitants.
he is there with Columbus.
First of all, that's
Hamlet.
from It's
Cortez.
a Wonderful Life is what you've done.
I did, yeah.
I'm gonna go found a hamlet.
For heaven's sakes, Ben, this is what you did. I'm gonna read another one unless we're
got
still
a new
we want to
bucket
spin
list
this in a
item.
blender a little bit longer.
Hamlet special at the Cozy Cafe, $3.99.
Dear Life from the Path, I invited a couple out for the husband's 60th birthday. We sat at the chef's table in the front of the kitchen and had amazing food and service. We all agreed it was a perfect evening.
Okay.
Oh,
I paid the bill and left a 25% tip on a $400 bill for 3 people.
Wow.
The couple then they could have just said $100. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Anyway, the couple then proceeded to hand cash to the staff in spite of the fact that I had told them and I'd already tipped 25%, and they acknowledged that they knew it. It was never my intention that they pay anything, and I was embarrassed. I felt like creeping out of the restaurant and never going back. Am I going to feel this way? Am I wrong to feel this way? Why wasn't my gift enough?
You were wrong to feel this way.
Yes, you're
Go back to
prideful.
your Hamlet.
You're
Knock it
super
off.
sensitive.
You're
Yeah.
prideful. You're
Grow up.
sensitive. You're ridiculous.
Yeah.
They understand that you paid already. They decided to pay more than that. You're fine.
Do you
And
think?
they enjoyed it. They enjoyed paying more.
It's a
You brought
compliment.
them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you hit
We
the,
all agreed it
you
was a
hit the
great
tip
meal.
on the end of a credit card bill. They're handing out cashola. They
That's
look
okay.
like kings of the county.
I mean, they do.
You shouldn't be embarrassed. You should just be mad at them for flaunting around their cash, because that's obviously unnecessary.
That's thunder stealing.
25% tip. Yeah.
I mean,
holy
why are you
cats.
jealous of the servers making more money? That's just
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose
It's all about looks.
you'd be worried that, like, hey, you know, the servers were going to know me as generous with $25, and then Johnny Cash Bill shows up and starts handing out the
That's
greenbacks.
the problem.
making me look
You
foolish.
wanted to be the vicar of the village.
Yeah,
and
you're
like, it didn't
prideful.
work out.
Knock it off.
Yeah, the Harry of the Hamlet.
how many people were at this party?
I'd say 4.
4.
Oh, 4 people, $400. Okay, so
3.
it's pretty good. I was gonna say they're cheap anyway.
Oh no,
it's
it was
pretty
3.
good.
It was 3 people.
Yeah.
How is it? Only
Ooh, they went to
it's her and her husband and she invited a
Brazilian
couple,
steakhouse.
yes?
It's steak and booze. Steak and booze. They had steak and booze. That's guaranteed.
Oh, I invited a couple out for the husband's 60th birthday.
Oh, so she took a couple out.
Yeah, she's a single.
Oh, for
kinda
that
makes it-
husband's
That kind
60th.
of makes it
Yeah.
weird.
Or her husband is 60 and she invited another couple and her, and they went out and left the husband home.
Yeah.
I like that idea better.
For his birthday, I left.
Hey,
was
Gary, you
elated.
turned 60. Me and these two are going to go out. Great job.
You stay at home because your kids don't love you. We're going to the Hamlet
Exactly.
party.
You should just go disappear at the villages.
Wow. Okay, here's Secular's advice. Secular says, your gift was enough, and obviously the birthday celebration was a success. Your guests were so impressed that they shared their pleasure with the staff. What they did was no reflection on you and should not allow it to discourage you from going back. In fact, I'm sure the establishment will welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, 25% tip plus cash in the end. Of course they're going to welcome you.
And you've set a high bar though. You can't walk in there again.
Right, exactly.
I wouldn't be.
true.
if
I
you
wouldn't
tip
be.
15%, they're going to freak out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be
expectations.
embarrassed about having been there, but I certainly be cautious about going back.
Yeah. You can be super fancy one time at a restaurant and then never go back, and they think, wow, those were really fancy people.
I do it all the time. I blow up the McDonald's on the east side. I get like 5 McChickens. They say, look at that man.
I show up in that drive-thru, they're like, oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Not-
something bad
not
is about
prepared.
to happen. It's like 2 a.m. That guy's expecting breakfast.
Yeah,
This is
fire up the
terrible.
cobweb griddle. Stuff's going to happen.
I gave a $100 tip once to a Hy-Vee server who was called. I mean, it was like she had need, you know, but I never felt bad about going back. I mean,
You've seen
Dan,
that
how
woman
did you
before?
know she had need?
we had a relationship, and it was her last day of work. and-
Oh, okay. All right.
Like you're not afraid of going back because the woman who would know the difference doesn't work there anymore.
well,
Yeah,
that might be
Dan,
a
that's
point.
not a great example.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever tipped that much. I've never done that cool thing.
I
I feel lame now. Am I a terrible person because I haven't done that?
well, I got a few decades on
Thanks,
you.
man.
I mean,
Right
you
off
know.
the cuff. Appreciate it.
What? Were you going to talk about that more? I went to do something else while you guys were discussing this, and then all of a sudden, nothing
Mike, what are your
happened.
thoughts on villages?
I just never felt about bad going back. I never felt like obligated to do that again. I mean, I just
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a unique circumstance. And like
Yeah.
if you ran into that same person over and over again, I feel like there'd probably be a little bit of a. It wouldn't stop you from going, but like there'd be like a silent acknowledgement that the thing occurred because it was such like an event.
yeah.
But because she's
I
not
have
coming
seen
back.
her. I mean,
Unless they were a schmuck
They
and they're
moved
like,
her to a
oh, that
different
$100
store.
tip was great. Eh?
Yeah, what would you prefer? That you wouldn't want her to bring it up, right?
oh right. It's just like we both know what happened. I mean, we knew what happened, and
Yeah.
Sounds nefarious.
I don't need to. Hey, you know I'm that guy, right? I mean,
The problem is if you go there with any type of consecutive type ways, you gave $100 at one time, and then next time people be like giving you great service and you pump out 10.
Right, exactly.
They're
You
gonna be
look
super
cheap now.
disappointed.
even though you were not cheap in any way doing the 100. Now they're like, wait, I have an expectation set.
But
Yeah.
see, I kind of assessed her as not being that type of personality
Okay.
in the first place. She was working hard. She was going through college. She lost her job because of a organizational change. It had nothing to do with her. I thought, man, and she had like rent was due, and she was just kind of confiding in me as like, oh boy, I got to figure this out, And I thought, well, I'm just gonna help her out, And
Either I need to pump up my frequency to certain restaurants, or I am a terrible person when it comes to being personable, because I've never gotten that in depth knowing a server, ever. And I'm a big guy. I
Yeah.
go to places a lot, damn.
they like you.
Actually, it occurs to me that like when you receive $100 tip from a pastor, you would go, "This is unethical."
Right, this
And
is
I
the
find
Lord's
this
You
money.
probably stole that money anyway.
Yeah.
Find him on a-
Did this come straight from the
He probably
offering
took
table?
it right out of the coffers. And he's going to have a
Wasn't that supposed
luxurious
to go to the
breakfast
children?
at the Ivy.
The Lord giveth.
All right, last one. Ready?
Yep.
Dear Life from the Path. My 6th grade grandson, oh boy, this is some meddling here. My 6th grade grandson is in a 2.5-hour social studies class. What? He told me that during that time, the teacher texts at least 6 times. I think this deprives the students of valuable instructional time. My daughter hasn't spoken to the principal about it yet. I wonder when this concern will be expressed by other parents and discussed in your column.
Wow.
I'm sure.
Oh man. Myrtle,
6
Stop.
times.
stop meddling in your grandson's life. Let your children take care of anything they feel needs to happen. And 6 times in 2.5 hours is not taking away from crucial instructional time.
This is where I thought this didn't happen anymore, right? Like when people would know that they're being played. Your grandson bringing up that the teacher texting 6 times during this 2.5-hour social studies.
Yeah.
He's playing you.
Yeah, what's going on
He's
with this
saying,
grandkid
look,
being
my
a
teacher
narc?"
does bad things. Ignore that C I just brought home.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, well, otherwise, if the kid was getting great grades, this conversation wouldn't even come up.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on in your social studies
I didn't
class.
learn anything about the Mongols because my teacher texted the 6 times. in
2.5 hours. You in there because you failed it already.
Yeah,
I was
that's
trying
true.
to learn that the teacher was just busy.
Yeah. I feel like you're
Maybe she
in
was
remedial
texting
social
asking for
studies.
instructional methods on how to teach 6th graders social studies.
There is not a 6th grade class that lasts 2.5 hours. I mean, there's no part of modern education that thinks any kid's going to sit there for no 2.5 hours. That's a lie.
You have it should be a pretty good key that you have an inflated sense of self. If you have a limited, like within your local community, somebody, let's say this is true, 2.5-hour social studies class, teacher is texting, and she's anticipating that the entire community will band together and write letters to Dear Live from the Path
Yeah.
about this particular problem.
I can't wait till this blows up your newsprint. This one guy in this small town in Texas.
How long do you think it'll take till the rest of the parents rise up?
Yeah, like if you believe that your particular qualm is the basis of a revolution, you've overreacted.
Yes. You have an inflated sense of self.
Here's all revolutions have already been started. They've been tried. They've been foundering or like trying to rekindle somewhere. But you think that you came up with the idea that starts a new revolution? You are mistaken. You are mistaken, sir.
Yeah, this is some high-class meddling right here. And she says, my daughter hasn't gone to the principal
Yet.
yet. But she's good. Oh, I bet that'll be a stellar conversation. The principal's going to be blown away. What? She's using her phone? I mean, half the kids get to use their phone in the school anyway. You can't get them to pay attention to what the teacher's even talking
She's
about.
probably texting the kids.
Yeah. Hey, pay attention.
What are you doing after class?
I see you on your phone. Have you hit level 14 yet?
Let's see. Secular says, has your daughter discussed this with the parents of the other students? If she hasn't, she should, because they may not be aware of what the teacher's doing. If they find it as concerning as you and your daughter do, they should approach the principal as a group. You know, the principal loves that. When you come in as a band of furious parents,
Yeah.
ready to roll on the whole
With
organization.
pitchforks and torches.
When all actuality, you've been using the school as a daycare to deal with your rotten kid. And then you and this band of groupies got together and decided you were going to waylay on how the school was being
We
taught.
Mike, tell us how you really feel about that situation.
We are ready to reach out to antiquated media in mass. If this is not addressed.
Now as,
We
as,
are prepared.
as a guy who has a wife who works in the office at a public school, I wouldn't be too surprised that it is the office texting the teachers to ask if little Johnny's there,
Yeah.
because he was reported walking through the hallway chewing gum and throwing things in lockers, and they want to
Right.
make sure he's actually in class. And he's sitting there watching her to see if she's texting.
Send a Snapchat of the kid. Yes, he's here.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now that the biggest, the bane of the educational system is the parents involved with it. It did not used to be quite as ridiculous as it is, but it's all tipped to one side, and parents show up every day with their humpity bumpity and blah blah blah. You should teach why don't you teach your own kid math?
Yeah.
And then they'll come to class, breeze right through it. They
Yeah.
won't even have a concern at all. Why don't you spend all your free time teaching them science, math, social studies, and how to behave themselves and not act like a little hooligan? And then when they come to this school building, they will breeze through, don't even know their name. They're like, this kid doesn't even kick the dust up when he walks through the front door. But no, that's not what you do. You throw your temper tantrum little man in here. You let him terrorize the school, and then when they call in and say, "Look, Jack is tearing the place up," you go, "How dare you? He's a special, unique child, and he was always born to tear it up, and you don't know how to weigh his." Like, are you kidding
I would
me?
kill to see that. report.
What an absolute waste. Teachers, first of all, don't make near enough money, and second of all, they have to put up the burden of listening to you. Come to conferences and tell them how special the kid is, and if you just spend more time with him, you'd realize how great he is. Look, man, he's here 10 hours a day, tearing the place up. I know your kid pretty darn well, and he's a terror.
All right, it seems there's something ripe in there. You can send to the complaint line. That's 515-517-0085. Maybe your kid's born to tear it up. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah,
Tore up from the floor up with
517-0085. You've been hanging out with us on Live from the Path. We do very much appreciate it. Thanks for joining us in this new year. We're glad to be back on air, and we'll hopefully be hanging around with you as we come. If you got any topics you'd like to discuss on the show, any personal problems, you need some medical advice, like I said, that complaint line's the way to do it. 515-517-0085. We're going to turn you loose, and we'll see you next week or whenever we wander in. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. Thanks for listening to Live from the Path.
Silence, you can't steal my
Stop with
voice.
it.
You can't keep me quiet. I will bring the noise. Try to beat me down, tell me to shut my mouth.